What's going on? What's going on, everyone? Terrence Doyle, Multifamily Mentors, Season 3. I am super excited. This is a very sentimental, near and dear to my heart episode. We're filming in my hometown of Des Moines, Iowa. The first podcast I've ever recorded in Des Moines, Iowa. I'm sitting here looking at the principal building from the newest acquisition from Bearco, 137 mid-rise in East Village of Des Moines. So super special, very sentimental. I've got one of my good buddies from high school recording it, editing it, and I have Jose Linares here with me from San Diego. And so Jose, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with the group.
Yeah, I'm super excited for you to be here. I think you have so much to share, so much value to deliver to the audience. Let me set the stage here so people that are not familiar with you, that don't follow you on Instagram, which, by the way, a great Instagram follow. We'll get into more of that, claims to fire. We'll talk about that at the end, but great Instagram follow. So my brother and I have been owning property in Des Moines and managing it for a while. We had some scattered site, smaller multifamily. We started buying in like 2014, 15. In 2019, my brother's like, dude, there's no way we can buy more 100 unit. We had just closed on our first 100 unit building. And my brother's like, dude, there's no way we can buy more 100 unit buildings if we're going to own all these scattered site properties. Like, in order to scale, we have to sell those and just focus on larger assets. And I was like, all right, cool, let's do it. So then went to my favorite broker in town. We put them, on the market, and we'd sold a few of them. And then we were selling a 7 unit and a 15 unit. And that's when we first met, right? And so we met through you buying 2 properties from us in Des Moines, Iowa,
yep.
Right? And then from there, we built basically just an organic friendship through you and I talking on not even a regular basis, just a couple times a year, having really great interactions, you bringing value to me whenever I'd have a question, and, us basically just collaborating, right? We were in the same mastermind for a little bit through Andrew Cushman, really enjoyed our interactions there. And then we really bonded over the idea of wanting to help people, basically take our experience in multifamily and be able to share it and really offer what we feel like is a lot of substance and disproportionate value to the group. So that's kind of how we bonded. Now we're doing a deal together, right? So I went from, selling, you buying a few of our deals to now doing a deal together and doing an entire community together, right? So an amazing, I think, journey. And since we've gotten to know each other, I've said, I want to have you on the show because I want people to understand your story, right? And so for anyone out there that's watching and you're like, why should I watch the rest of this episode? If you are in a W-2 job and you have a family, or you maybe are planning a family and you're like, how do I get financial freedom? How do I build wealth through real estate and still have a W-2 job? I have responsibilities. I have a mortgage. I have all of these obligations. How do I do it? This episode's for you, right? This is your story, right? This is your story of W-2 job to buying real estate and to building a portfolio of cash flow producing assets while you have a W-2 job, right? This is your story. And so take us back to the beginning just a little bit. Talk about what it was like to grow up in your household and highlight for the audience what your view of money was.
Yeah. So I grew up in Chicago and grew up raised by a single mother, and she had to work multiple jobs to support us. Thankfully, our grandparents were there to also support, but I saw the struggles that she was going through working so many jobs. And ultimately, I had a scarcity mindset around money because it was always paycheck to paycheck, and there was never enough to actually build a savings, and we're always just trying to get to the next stage. And that kind of carried on, even though they gave me the right path, like her taking those sacrifices helped me get to where I am today and helped me get to college and everything. But it just laid the foundation of a scarcity mindset around money. We didn't talk about money. It was something that if you saw, prices on a menu, don't really ask about anything. If you have to ask the price, then you can't afford it. So I just really never had a good relationship around money. And because of that, even though I had a college education, I found myself into bad debt multiple times. I didn't learn the lesson the first time. Second time, I learned my lesson and I got out of it. But that ultimately, I just needed to make iterations and pivots on my own to improve myself so I can get out of debt.
So let's unpack that. Like, talk about debt, right? So you're out of college, you're the first person to graduate college in your family, right? And then you find yourself in all this credit card debt, right? Which I think is like a really interesting part of your story and your journey to financial independence, right? So talk about what that was like, how much debt you were in, and how you got out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So When I moved to San Diego after college, I had $40,000 in student loans. And then because I still wanted to, I'm 22 at the time. So when I wanted to go out and hang out with my friends and everything, I really didn't have the additional disposable income, and I would just put it on credit cards. And so I racked up another $34,000 in debt. So total debt was $74,000 at the time. And 2007, the wildfires hit in San Diego. That's where I was manning the evacuation sites for the insurance company that I was working for.
Right.
Met the catastrophe adjusters that were handling those particular claims, asked them a lot of questions, found out that they can make over six figures in less than a year. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go that route. And so I left to join the catastrophe team in 2008. I put everything into storage. So my only expenses was a storage unit and my cell phone, about $150 per month. I was gone for 21 days at a time. I'd come back for like 5 to 7 days, pay for groceries or take my friends out to dinner to compensate them for letting me crash on the couch. But that allowed me to clear all of my bad debt in 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, which is an incredible thing, right? To be willing to be uncomfortable for that period of time in that season of life, right? When most people want to party, date, travel, live it up. And you're like, I don't really like how this debt feels. And I don't think I'm my best self right now. Let me go be uncomfortable with living on other people's couches, living kind of like a nomad in order to get rid of this debt. What's your advice? Like, do you have 2 or 3 pieces of advice for someone that's in debt right now and they know that there's a better way and they want to start to build wealth, savings? Like, what would be your advice for someone that's in debt right now and wants to get out?
First, I would say find a way to scale your income, because you can only save so much. Like, there's only a max amount that you can cut your debt, really. But if you can scale your income, then you have unlimited potential to save more, to then invest more. But to go back to the second part of that, which is the try and live as minimal as possible. Like, I did it by putting everything in a storage. That's kind of hard to do for most people.
But it's doable, though.
It is doable.
It's hard, but doable.
It is doable, but a lot of people on the BiggerPockets community, especially, they know about house hacking. If you can get into house hacking, like most people in their 20s have roommates. So I would always recommend, if you're going to be living with roommates, figure out a way to partner with them to buy the house together and then offset the housing expenses, because that's going to be your biggest expense.
Yeah. So, I mean, this goes back to like the Gabe Bowling, formula for wealth, right? And I think you got it from Grant Cardone is, find something you're good at, grow the income as much as possible, right? Like you said, you can only cut out so many $5 cups of Starbucks a day. Like, that only adds up to so much, right? So it's not really, you need to scale your income. You need to grow your income. And then the third is, take that excess money, save it, and invest it into cash flow producing assets. And I think you get out a fourth is lower, if you have the ability to lower your expenses, right? And that is a formula that's tried and true.
Yeah.
And if you follow that formula and take the savings and invest it correctly into cash flow producing assets over the long term, right? You will get rich for sure. It's not going to be fast.
Right.
It's not going to be easy, but get rich for sure over get rich quick. So that's great advice. And I think that's a big part of your story, right? Is how you were able to get out of debt and be uncomfortable and have delayed gratification. Now, talk about how you got into Blue Sky and your first exposure into multifamily.
Yeah, so in 2016, I joined Blue Sky Restoration, and we strictly focus on commercial restoration across the country. And as a claims adjuster, I was only handling personal lines, so only had residential exposure. So by taking this position, it was a sales position, trying to build sales and restoration losses. So I was introduced to multifamily, like institutional investors, asset managers, property managers, and I had no idea anything about the space. So as I was going into those meetings, I did what I do best as an introvert, is ask questions. I just kept asking more and more questions. Eventually, the light bulb hit that my wife and I were big into travel at the time, that I can be anywhere in the world. And the beginning of the month, those checks are coming in. And then as long as I can oversee and make sure the operations are there and the expenses are covered, we can be cash flowing and earning income from anywhere in the world. And I was like, I got to look into this more.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The best business, in my opinion, in the world, multifamily. So what was the light bulb moment for you that was like, I got to do this and I got to go all in?
So that was the next step after having that initial thought process. Was I basically Googled how to invest in multifamily, found BiggerPockets. No one's the same after you find BiggerPockets. And
say it again. They're going to love that.
No one is the same after you find BiggerPockets.
Right.
And so I listened to pretty much every single episode. I started from episode 1, and this was in 2017 that I found BiggerPockets. So I started from episode 1. There were probably like 300 episodes deep at that point.
So you're just consuming content.
Consuming everything. All my drives to appointments were BiggerPockets episodes. My drive back, BiggerPockets episodes. And so I heard Brandon Turner talk about his investment strategy for his daughter, Rosie. Basically, he was saying that he bought a fourplex when she was born. He put on a 30-year mortgage, but he was paying it down in a 15 to 18 timeframe, so that by the time she was old enough, he had the capital within that asset to do a tax-free cash-out refinance to then pay for college if she wanted to go to college, the startup capital if she wanted to do a startup, or down payment for her first investment property if that was her goal, but he had more flexibility at that point. And then also it was a way to pay for all the childcare expenses for those 15 to 18 years. And that was a light bulb moment because it took away the scarcity mindset that I grew up with around not being able to support a family and having to work 2 to 3 jobs. So that was what helped shatter that path for me to feel comfortable raising a family and supporting a family by knowing that I had income generating assets.
Yeah, that's such a powerful story. And in the show notes, we'll put that episode that you listened to in, so people can go listen to that. But like, so powerful, right? To hear that, to hear a story that someone else is doing, and then to say, okay, now I found something that I can tangibly hold on to and go after and do myself to duplicate that so that I too can have financial freedom, right? I mean, I think that's one of the most amazing things about technology in the world we live in is like, there's no excuse because you can go hear normal people. Brandon Turner, a great dude, right? Yeah. Normal guy. You know what I mean? Normal dude. But he's applied himself and been able to do things that have put him in a different position, and then being able to share that with other people that then can then like take it and go apply it themselves is amazing. You know what I mean? Yep. Like amazing. So talk about transitioning, right? Because Brandon Turner, talk about how mentorship has really shaped your career since that moment.
Yeah. So to go to mentorship, even though I heard that story about Brandon, I found myself then in analysis paralysis for about 2.5 years because I was just consuming content, but I wasn't actually taking action on anything that I was consuming. But I knew the path that I needed to take. So in 2019, BiggerPockets announced that they had the conference in Nashville, their first conference. And as an introvert, I knew that I needed to go solo to push myself and make myself uncomfortable. And because I knew if I went with a buddy, I was going to just hang out with them. I probably wasn't going to network as much. I wouldn't be open to meeting all these new people. So I went solo, and that's where I met David Green. We chatted a little bit during that conference. He invited me to his mastermind that he had just launched in 2019. So the conference was in October. I joined it a week later, and I started making offers within the next month. So in November, I was making offers in Des Moines, Iowa on multifamily properties.
So from David Green, you went where then?
So from David Green, then I knew that I needed additional mentorship, but strictly focused on multifamily. So in 2020, Andrew Cushman and I had built a relationship, and that's actually how I got introduced and made the offer and close on your 7 unit was because of my conversation with Andrew, because I was only looking at fourplexes at the time. And he was the one who said, just go one more unit higher. The minute that you hit 5+ units, you're in commercial space. You'll build a track record with commercial brokers, commercial lenders, property managers, everything. So I took his advice, and then through our conversations, he let me know he was launching his mastermind in 2020. And I joined his mastermind. That's where we continued to build our relationship after closing on the property. And then in 2021, I decided that I need to learn how to scale because I was already taking action, but there were some inefficiencies on doing it solo. So I wanted to learn from successful investors across the country. And I thought the best person to do that would be Brandon Turner as well. So I joined the Brandon Turner Maui Mastermind in 2021. And that's where I met my partner, Luke, who is helping with operations for multifamily investing. And now we're here in 2022 and we're building the Value Tribe together.
Yeah. So quite, a transition there from like David Green, Andrew Cushman, Brandon Turner, and now, not only are you in a community, but you're like co-hosting it and able to give back, right? So summarize and give the punchline of like, what are the 3 things that you think mentorship, through being in some of the top masterminds with some of the top real estate minds, operators and investors in the country, what have you learned that you would encourage people out there that are maybe in that same like analysis season of their, investing stage, what would what are the 3 things that you would say for, mentorship?
Top 3 things that I would probably say regarding mentorship is first that it will drastically shorten the learning curve. So like I said, when I joined Dave Green's mastermind in 2019, I was making offers a month later versus the 2.5 years of analysis paralysis prior to that, trying to figure it out all on my own. The second thing that I would say is as you continue to grow, you're going to have iterations of yourself. So you will join more networking, more masterminds, and your growth will continue to scale from there. But honestly, the last thing that I would say about mentorship is that we are most powerfully positioned to serve the person we once were. And I heard that on a Ed My Lab podcast from Rory Vaden. And ultimately, like, what's the best way that I can serve the Jose from 5 years ago? That's where I want to add the most value. And I feel that I can make the biggest impact to the world by serving the person that I was during that analysis paralysis stage.
Yeah. And I think that you're very humble and, sometimes even like not wanting to overstate, what you've done. But I think, just from watching you and observing you the last 3 years, right, that it's almost been 3 years, someone that's like really good at your day job, right? And you've even helped some of our properties on the restoration side, right? So really good, works for a reputable company, really good at his job, but has this other side where it's like, man, I want to learn as much as I can, be around really successful people and build financial independence through multifamily, and how you've been able to navigate both of those, being a husband, a father, full-time W-2 employee, and then also like wanting to build financial freedom through real estate. How you've been able to juggle all of that and then get to where you're at through, and I think, you digested a lot of content, right? And then you even said, okay, I was just like digesting content, not taking action. So you go to BiggerPockets, the conference, meet David Green, get into his coaching program. And then within a month, you're writing offers, right? Which then leads you to Andrew Cushman. That's like, okay, I want to learn more about multifamily. A couple conversations with him and you're under contract on a 7 unit in Des Moines, right? And then a year later, you're like, oh, I want to take it another step further. Let me go spend time with Brandon Turner, right? Who's done insane things in terms of wealth creation, raising capital, syndication, all those things. You meet your current business partner, Luke, who then you two together are, form a team that like now is interesting for my company, Verico, to say, hey, we'll do a deal with you guys. You know what I mean? We have access to a lot of opportunity. We have the platform. You guys have some investors. Let's do a deal together, And so that to me is like an amazing journey that so many people, and like you just said, the quote is, and I wrote it down because I thought it was so powerful, is you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were, right? And so there's so many people out there that are in a similar position, either their mindset with money, their current W-2 job, and or in analysis by paralysis, right? Like they're just sitting there analyzing things so much that they're paralyzed. They have too much data. It's information overload. How do I take action, right? And so that's where mentorship has been such a huge part of your journey. And now you're wanting to give back to those people out there and say, we want to help you overcome that, shorten the learning curve, and get to where you want to be. So I think it's amazing. How do people, like, I can't say enough of like how proud I am of you and just what you've done. I think it's an incredible thing. And I think I think part of that comes from, I just talk to and see so many people, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, that are like that communicate being in a similar position, either mentally or like just personally in their season of life, as what we just went through, right? So how can people get involved with you? How can they be a part of your community? How can they get closer with you and follow you?
So I am claims to fire everywhere on social media, every single platform, most active on Instagram. But honestly, I love hearing from everybody on their journey. I typically will reach out to people, my followers, myself. They typically won't even reach out to me because I want to learn like where they are on their journey. And I'm always happy to answer questions because I want to help people along and serve the Jose from 5 years ago.
Yeah. And listen, I'm going to brag on him because he's not doing a good job bragging himself. Like his claims to fire has such great data, content, memes. If you're looking to laugh, he's got great, music, storytelling. I mean, it's incredible. He does a really, really good job on his Instagram. And I think you're going to get a lot of value by following him and, talk to him, reach out to him, talk about his, community. I think Jose is doing an amazing job of building a tribe of people that he's over delivering for. And, now he went from buying 7-unit, 15-unit, he's under contract on a 74-unit in Des Moines. I mean, your trajectory is incredible. What you and Luke are doing, I'm really excited to continue watching the journey. And I can't thank you enough for being here, making the trek from sunny San Diego to a little colder Des Moines, Iowa in the middle of the winter, but hopefully enjoyed the trip.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is great, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jose.